Hello, everybody. Welcome to On Air with Beacon. We're doing a special edition. Got myself and community leader Greg here, aka Duck Fart. I'm your DeFi professor, Chris here, and we are doing our regular Twitter space that we normally do at 2 p.m. Eastern. But today we're doing it a little bit differently because we're actually going to be live streaming it today because we're doing a different topic today, which is, tomorrow is the first day of October, and we're going to be looking at Q4 right in the face. So, Greg, not to put you on the spot too quickly, but how excited are you for Q4?
Oh man, I think it's setting up really well for some good gains as long as I've got my portfolio set up right. So I'm really excited. Q4 seems to perform pretty well. Last year it did, at least for me. So yeah, I couldn't be any more excited for Q4. This last month has been really sideways. So fortunately, I was able to get into some LPs and still catching some gains. So loving it.
Exactly. So tell me a little bit about, you've been with us for quite some time. Tell me about your thoughts on why having not just a portfolio, but an all-weather portfolio is important to you.
Well, I mean, without an all-weather portfolio, I mean, you're subject to the direction of the market regardless of how it's acting, right? So
Right.
if I have a all-weather portfolio or one setup that is say 40-40-20, blue chips, stable coins, and then some higher risk plays, um, it's going to balance out better. I mean, I'm not necessarily my portfolio isn't going to tank when everybody else is freaking out on Twitter, going pulling their hair out because everything's crashing. I'm nice and calm and able to find some better positions because my portfolio is set up and ready for that. I'm already
Exactly.
prepared. I'm already prepared regardless of the direction of the market.
Love it. And that's exactly why we talk about doing an all-weather portfolio, guys, is because as it states, it's the ability to have a portfolio that can weather any storm. And while we really talked about this back in 2022, 2023, when we were in more of a bear market, the opposite is also true. Your portfolio should be able to withstand movement in both directions, especially as we're now in a bull market. So let me just do this real quick. I have one other place to post this.
Out there a little bit.
Yeah, 1 second.
You're back. I wasn't sure if it was you or me. I tend to lag out a lot, but I saw
No,
my head moving. So
it's me. Um, I'm trying not to say I'm in a situation where I just need to make sure I didn't set up all of our so I just said just putting out here to get going. So let's go ahead and just get going. And pardon me. I have really bad allergies. This is the allergy season. So let's go ahead and get started here. Oh, yeah. If I click maximize, what does this do? Oh, look at that. It covers our faces entirely. I'm gonna go this route, Greg. I'm gonna cover you for a little bit, and then I'll bring you back when I need it when we talk about things.
Hey, no worries, brother.
All right. So obviously, first thing I want to talk about is none of this is financial advice. Do your own research. That's what NFA DYOR or Dior, we like to call it in our group, means. All of this is based on your efforts whatsoever. Sorry for the brightness, but let's just talk quickly about building a portfolio. Let's talk about the criteria that's going to shape your portfolio structure. First off is all about time commitment. How much time do I have to dedicate to DeFi each week or month? Also, what is my risk tolerance?
First
And we'll
off is
talk
all
more
about
about that in just a second. Also, what's your available capital and your goals? And how do you want your assets held? One thing I will say is that there are multiple ways to classify your portfolio assets. Generally, what we like to recommend in our group is based off of risk level. And just to kind of set the premise, Beacon DeFi, that's what we're representing here on the call today. We are a DeFi education company. We help safely educate and onboard people into the Web3 DeFi space. We've helped tens of thousands of people come onto the scene safely and securely since 2021. So let's also talk about how we should track our portfolio. In our group, we do have a tracking spreadsheet. You're more than welcome to check us out if that's something that you're interested in. Dashboard sites are the easiest way for us to track our portfolios, whether it's DBank on EVM, that's what we recommend, or Jupiter Portfolio on Solana. Those are really the two basic places we go. One place that I also use, it's kind of both, is Pulsar. Nansen Portfolio needs a little bit of work, and maybe it's better now, but I haven't tried it since they've made it a paid offering. But also inside your wallet, if you use, we recommend Rabby for our main EVM wallet and Phantom for our Solana wallet. Currently, those things could obviously change, but they all have decent tracking inside the wallet. Although Jupiter Portfolio, in my opinion, is really getting all of this set up. Why is it important to do that? Because you need a map. When you're somewhere new and you don't know where you're going, you need a map. If I'm going to a place I've never been before, I look it up on a map, right? And so this all-weather portfolio is like a map for you. The goal is, if you're going to be doing yield farming in DeFi, you want to spend up to an hour or less a week on doing the farming. In my opinion, you should be doing less than 20 minutes. We have so many amazing opportunities to automate this now with multiple farms that a lot of things are set and forget. That wasn't the case a year ago. That wasn't the case. That definitely wasn't the case 2 years ago. In some cases, that wasn't the case at the beginning of this year. But there are a lot of fantastic opportunities to go out and set up farms that you can just set up in a couple of clicks and then not worry about it. You can just use your dashboard application to monitor it from your phone, from your desktop, wherever you have it set to. And that's the beauty of DeFi today. You definitely want your portfolio to bring in as much passive gain as possible. That's the key. And that's where the set and forget comes in, right? Pardon me. I was just talking to a friend of mine, and he said, and I quote him, I wish that a long time ago I would have just put most of everything into stables, earning 10 to 15%. I probably would have been in a much better position. Then obviously he's doing great now, but it's interesting how many people I know that are whales that put the majority of their money in terms of farming into just sitting in stablecoin positions that are between 7 and 15%. 7 and 15%. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think it's great for those who want to have a significant amount of their portfolio just for farming in the trenches. But just know, if you're going to be doing that, please have a profit taking structure where you put those profits into long hold assets that you care about, or put them in stable coins. That way you always have powder on the side to go into even more opportunities. And that's what I mean by your portfolio should be agile, because DeFi moves unbelievably quickly. In fact, we just talked about it on our Wednesday podcast with regards to how many narratives have suddenly just come out of nowhere to really show themselves now for Q4 into what was supposed to be a fairly good time in terms of, yeah, we're possibly gonna get a couple rate cuts. We should get some really good momentum going into Q1 2026. And we're recording this today on September 30th. Now we're in a situation where we have multiple narratives coming to a head, airdrop opportunities, new blockchains launching sooner than expected, and a lot of people are starting to farm again. Perp dexes are nuts right now. Prediction markets are nuts right now. AI is nuts right now. They're all working together now. I just saw a product for prediction AI. That's like I said, it's all going to melt together. Either way, you should be prepared with an all-weather portfolio. So let's talk about risk profile. I don't know about you, Greg, but I am a risk on person. I am fairly high risk.
Probably more than I should be, to be honest. Uh,
Nothing wrong
um,
with that, in my personal opinion.
I've toned that down just for some personal reasons over the last like 90 days, but
Yep.
generally speaking, I'm probably more on like of a 60% high risk, 40% lower risk type of.
Yeah, fairly neutral
Mhm.
right now, right? Depending on how, and let's be honest, if you were super risk on, the first half this year, you've probably been chopped to death. Out there trying to play the charts. Being risk on also means that you're profiting off of those people, which Greg and I have been very good at doing this whole year. But staying fairly neutral, being risk on, risk off with long hold assets, high conviction plays, and then balancing that with like more risk on positions, I think is a healthy way to go about this because there's so many opportunities here in this bull market. So let's talk a little bit more about risk profile for a second. A lot of your risk is going to happen in this space, at least, is going to come from your time commitment. If you don't have time to manage a lot of your positions, you should not consider yourself for more high risk plays. If you work 60 hours a week, you don't have the time to be fully risk on. Well, you can be, but you might have some difficulty keeping up with things if you have to make moves quickly. Now, there are bots and other things out there, mechanisms like TPs and stop losses that you can set for that, limit orders, anything you can think of. But with regards to farming, you may want to be in a position where you have to cut off an LP, or if you're not in automated liquidity management, you may have to come in and break a position. That's why we're in ALMs, to be quite honest. And yes, the rates are a little bit lower, but you have that peace of mind that you can be high risk and still have really good profits coming in. So that's why having a balanced portfolio attack with that suits your risk level is so important here. And I have to state this. The beauty of Web3 is that you own your data, your keys, your crypto. The self custody journey here is so important that you have to be able to appreciate and embrace the responsibility of being in that situation. I love the fact that I get to control everything that's going on with my portfolio. I don't have to worry about a bank. I do have some situations like with validator staking where I do have to wait for those funds to come, but that's a different strategy altogether. Overall, it's my keys, my crypto. I can remove my liquidity as I need to, move it to other places. I have that flexibility to do so, and that's the beautiful thing about being in DeFi. Come back over here. Another part of your portfolio is also capital allocations. The first rule of investing is don't lose money. People ask me all the time, Chris, how do you make money in crypto? I say it's very simple. You don't lose money because you're going to lose money. Anything you can do to mitigate the fact that you're going to be losing money is a win in this case. I don't want to make too many poker analogies because there are a lot of poker players who started off as OGs in this space. But frankly, when you play good poker, if unless you're being supremely aggressive, you want to fold as quickly as possible because you don't want to be in a situation where you're consistently losing money on every hand. With that said, you have to be really honest with uh, with how you're outlining your capital. If you have low capital, meaning you have less than, like, let's call it 10K, your strategy on your portfolio is going to be much different than someone who has 100,000, 200, 1 million and higher. In fact, for a lot of people under 10K, your best situation is to find decently safe but well yielding types of mechanisms to put your money into while you build your portfolio. And how you build your portfolio is you bring more money into the system. That's just something that is just a part of life in this place until you can build enough great yielding positions where passive income can then create this flywheel where it all suits. Well, it just kind of continues to snowball, and that's what we're trying to build, right? DeFi snowballs is always a good way to look at it. Compound interest is the beautiful eighth wonder of the world. That is something, not exactly that, but Albert Einstein did say that. And one thing we also say is that, and like I mentioned, with bringing more money into the system, liquidity begets liquidity. Yes, it takes money to make money, guys. I think it's a very common sense thing to say. You're not going to come in with $100 and walk out with $100,000. If you do, you have either great guessing, great information, and you're just prepared well. Not everybody is going to have that. And also, you should not have the survivorship bias of thinking that just because they did it, that will also happen to you. That's a very big problem that I see in this space. People don't take profits along the way. They're holding for this beautiful 1000x that may or may never come. And frankly, you have a better chance of winning the lottery and being struck by lightning like multiple times than finding a 1000x. That's just the way that the game is played now. Just because of, frankly, there's thousands of tokens that are being launched every single day. For you to guess which is going to be the right one that has that perfect storm, it's just not something that's going to happen very often, guys. I'm just being very honest with this. And I've been in this space since 2019. With that said, and the reason why DeFi is so important is I know many people in this space who A, don't have a hardware wallet, and B, have no profit plan. They're just here just to, click a button and hopefully win a house with no other plans. And that's the wrong attitude to have. You should pay your taxes, guys. I'll say that now. None of this is financial advice, of course, not even tax advice. But pay your taxes. That's why when you're in this space, think about it like being in a business. That will help shape the mindset you need to make sure that you're making the right decisions because you're going to be taxed like it, whether you like it or not. If that means you need to move, that means you need to move. But just know that here in decentralized finance, where all of this was built without spending $1 of taxpayer money in any country, the returns here far outpace anything you're going to find in traditional finance. It's better than real estate. It's better than the stock market. This was built without hedges. $1 of it's better than anything money that you'll ever have direct access to. Yes, there are some great things out there that are on Wall Street that may get you 30 to 40%. But guess what? You're not getting that because you have to pay people to get that. Here, you get direct access, you get the right education through people like us, and you can do this for yourself. But you got to be very sensible about the way you go about it. All right, let's talk about two strategies that we talk about specifically in our group. The first is the barbell, and it's a very simple old idea. It's just you have literally one type of asset on one side and one type of asset on the other side of your portfolio. I know a lot of people where it's literally BTC and ETH. With our barbell, which we specifically brought out for the bull run that we called structurally in October of 2023, we believe in high conviction assets on one end, which and high risk assets on the other. So 50% high conviction, 50% higher risk. You get to decide which is which. In my opinion, and we'll talk more about this in just a minute, 50% of high conviction is like stable coins, long hold assets, which are assets you'll hold for 3 to 5 years plus. And on the right side is more narrative plays, things that are higher APR, higher return, higher risk, and can help bring profits quicker over to the high conviction side so you can continue to keep this flywheel of profit going. There's also a blue chip one where you're only just accumulating high conviction assets and holding. Nothing wrong with this. There are a lot of people I know that just aren't ready to do LPs, staking, and they're literally just buying and holding. You can certainly do that. I recommend you do that for altcoins right now. If there are altcoins, if you have spare profits, spare things on the side, or if you want to DCA just into altcoins right now, because frankly, the market for BTC and ETH is just too choppy and frothy, do that. Because at some point we will be ascending into that part of the bull market. But until then, you have your money work for you. And that's part of the original approach we've always had in this space, which is our 40-40-20 approach. It allows you to keep your portfolio all weather. Not that the barbell doesn't, but this in particular is tuned for that so that it can survive multiple market cycles. Greg, I'm going to ask you, which of those three are you currently having with your portfolio?
Well, up until about 4 months ago, I was 50-50, but I've been transitioning into Web3 full time, and I've been becoming a builder. And obviously, I don't have like the income coming in, so I switched back over to a 40-40-20 model, just because I don't have the time to monitor like I would need to on a 50-50 model. So like I'm on my long term side of things. I'm holding things like, of course, BTC and ETH. But I've also, because I believe in it, I'm holding Sol and Tau on that side, and then I do the occasional on the weekends. I've got some stable coins, obviously. Then I've also got some stable coins put away to where I can do some high risk farming on some platforms like Meteora, or if I see something really juicy on Aerodrome I want to farm, I'll go over there. Or if I see something that you call in the Discord that is a little bit higher risk that I want to get into, I've got some stuff put away for that, just so I can still get those gains while I'm slowly farming the LPs on other stuff and don't have the time, especially when you're in a lot of these really high risk meme coins, because they'll, in the snap of a finger, disappear on you, and there goes your money.
There goes your money. And I'll be honest, it's hard to sometimes, and even today, you're trenching out there, because I'm still a trencher. You're in a situation where you just don't think there's enough profit to take on the way up, especially if you're just popping in a couple $100 to get started, trying to see where the action is. So yeah, you got to be very careful out there. You got to have a plan, and that's really the key. For me personally, when I'm trenching, I'm doing it with like 2 to 5% of my portfolio. I've been in the 40-40-20 forever. I don't see myself leaving that just because of the flexibility of it. So yeah, thanks for that, Greg. Really appreciate that. Speaking of the 40-40-20, let's talk a little bit more about that approach. So what it does is it mixes risk tiers with a barbell approach. It allows you to farm blue chip assets, stable coins, and long hold assets, along with market neutral assets. And it welcomes diversification as part of the strategy. And this is an older version of this, so I apologize, but the foundation is still the same. It's going to be 40% high conviction holds and 60% of the farming engine, right? So the 40% is your high conviction holds, BTC, ETH, anything you're going to hold for 3 to 5 years. Ideally, 3 to 5 assets or less. I know some people want to be able to hold, 15 to 20 coins, and that's fine. Do what you want. I personally would consolidate down into, specific coins that are going to be, at least as part of this. If you want to just have a wallet where you have 20 coins that you're holding till Valhalla, do it. But for what you're going to be farming with, you definitely want 3 to 5 assets that you're going to be holding in this 40% bucket with the high conviction portion. Now, the 60% farming is now 40% of stablecoin are market neutral yields. That also includes correlated assets, right? So if you have like ETH and then Lido staked ETH, or ETH and like a restaked ETH, like EtherFi ETH, that counts here. Any other types of stable coins, like let's say you have um, USDC and USDG from Paxos, for example, or something else like maybe on Aerodrome on Base, they have more forex stable coins. That might be something that you may want to consider in this market neutral yield position. And I say market neutral, it's because the value is pegged directly to the value of a fiat asset. Is it necessarily one to one with the US dollar? No, but it should be a little bit more medium or lower risk than a regular asset that does have directional exposure, like an altcoin like AVAX or uh, Solana, stuff like that. And then 20% in that right side there will be on medium and high risk assets. Generally, we break that down into 15% medium, 5% high risk. And if you want to do 10-10, do whatever you like. This is just more of a framework, right? I'm not telling you this is how you have to do it. This engine on the 60% side really is just used to create profits to then go and acquire more long hold assets. And the part that's outdated here is it's not 30% one protocol, it's more like 10 to 15. There is a limit here. We definitely want to make sure that you are not more than 30% in one protocol at all, because that will help with the diversification. That will keep you from over investing. When I see people put their life savings into one project, it makes me cringe, because you never know what could happen. And you may say something like, "Oh, that's never going to happen." Believe me, it happens. It really does. There are things that happen. Groups make mistakes. There's human error. Even though we're in a world full of smart contracts, code is law, there are exploits, there are black hats out there working to try and extract as much from the system and everyday people as possible. It's disgusting. I can't believe the humanity of some of these people justifying that. But those are some of the people that are just in this society, you know? With that said, that number has come down more to like 15 to 20% in terms of no more than in one protocol. You want to make sure you're not over invested. Oftentimes, when people are in situations where they get exploited or they're part of an exploit and they were doing multiple things, layering multiple layers of smart contract risk, you have to embrace the fact that you did it. You have to own it. Yes, there is no safety net here per se. We have insurance, and if you want to check out insurance, do that. But there is no risk-free investment. Please, guys, keep that in mind. There's no such thing as a free lunch. There's no such thing as a risk-free investment. Keep that in mind when you're putting everything out here, because we just never know. And there's been terrible exploits that happened for multiple reasons, right? I'm not going to name them because it's kind of outside the scope of this, but just know that they're there. There have been multiple black swan events that we cannot control. So you have to make sure that you are in a situation where you're not completely over invested in one protocol. Just because you think something might not happen doesn't mean it's not going to happen. Exploits happen all the time. So, what makes an all-weather portfolio? And I needed to update this so it goes in the opposite direction. You're building your portfolio plan with your positions, look at where it's at, and imagine it if the market goes down 50%. If you're fine with that, look at it and see if it comes down another 90%, which has happened, guys. If you are happy with your portfolio at that point, it is all weather. Conversely, take this in the opposite direction. If the market goes up 50%, are you happy with where your portfolio is? And then if it goes up another 90% from there, remember, we called the structural bull market in October of 2023 when Bitcoin was roughly about $30,000. Where are we at now, guys? So yes, the market can go up significantly in the other direction. And hopefully you haven't felt the impermanent pain loss of it going up 90% in the opposite direction. I have. It's not fun. So just be very honest with yourself and think about if your portfolio is all weather. And if you have to make changes to it because of that, do that. In fact, I recommend you make changes to your portfolio looking at this monthly, if not quarterly, but you have to do it regularly because obviously things change. We've seen that Q4 in 2025 is going to be gangbusters, guys. Unless something happens and we get world war, the market's going to be pretty nuts going into Q1 2026, where it's going to go up again, in my personal opinion. Obviously, not financial advice to you on research. May of 2026, guys. Keep that date in mind because that is the end of Chairman Powell's term as the chair of the Federal Reserve. President Trump is bringing in somebody else. There is a zero chance that he stays on. And that person will most likely be cutting rates as they figure out exactly how they're going to play using all of these stable coins and all of these things that they've put through legislation to help bring down the US debt, while maintaining maximum profitability for themselves, of course. Anyway, let's move on. So, let's talk about farming your long hold assets. I would recommend, if you're going to do this, do things with good operational security, what we call OPSEC. And what does that mean? Wallet separation. I know multiple of our members who literally have a different wallet address for each part of this process, mainly because they don't want to have any issues from any other parts or protocols that possibly get exploited, poisoned, whatever word you want to use, from affecting the other parts of their portfolio. I think it's a very smart thing to do. It's something that you all should consider doing. Do not put everything you have on the same wallet address. You should be segmenting these out. Also, when you're doing research, and we've talked about this on our Friday Beat the Banks free trainings that happen every Friday at 3 p.m., please do not do research with the wallet that you use for all of your funds. Now, there are a lot of great things that are out there now, like smart contract wallets, like AI agent terminals. Uh, if you go to certain blockchains, they make you use a different wallet that you can just set up with a throwaway email, your Twitter login, your social login. Those are all good ways to consider using, just because of the insulation piece. It's okay if something happens when you're using, for example, our friends at Cabbage, who we've had at our TVL podcast before in Solana. They create a wallet for you based on your Telegram login, and you just fund that wallet. What's great about that is that you're playing along with in the trenches there with most people, and it's only going to be on that wallet. You don't have to worry about clicking a bad link connected to a different wallet and it affects your other funds. Any way that you can separate and mitigate as much of this risk as possible into different compartments, the safer you will be in this space. But yes, when farming your long hold assets, there's plenty of ways you can do that. You can do it in an AMM. You could lend and then borrow some stable coins to farm that with your middle 40. There's a lot of ways to do it. You don't have to put them at risk if you don't want to. If you'd rather just keep them there, so you're just accumulating more with more profits, do that. That's fine. Let's talk about the other 60% with the 40% in the middle. I will tell you right now, the majority of people I know who are successful in this space are at least 40% in stable coins. Yes, they're going to be lower yield. Wow. When did I put this one out? Expect 10 to 40% on average. Actually, that's not crazy right now at all. Stablecoin farming is at a premium right now, guys. If you've ever been a Morpho, Euler, Camino, Moonwell, even Aave, Katana, all of there's tons of places where you can get really good rates. Of course, our friends at Beefy as well is a great way to get it from a hands-off standpoint. I do think you need at least one full range or non-concentrated liquidity position where it's in a 50-50 range between two assets and you're providing liquidity for all the assets on the price range. Yeah, you should. Just to diversify the bag. Will you get as high of a rate as you would on a concentrated liquidity LP? No. But it's good to have some diversity there. Correlated is also great. These are some examples of fairly well correlated. ETH BTC is the only one here that can be a little leaky, but they travel well together overall. And some of these liquid staked versions are also good, right? Sol, Marinade Sol, Sol or B Sol, even some of the new ones like Sol or Jupe Sol, Sol Jito Sol, and also different issuers of wrapped coins, right? Like BitGo's WBTC, Threshold's TBTC, or Coinbase's CBBTC, which is available on Base. Uh, Nothing wrong with farming those. Are the rates on those going to be good? No, not at all. They're less than 5% in most cases. Are there situations where they could be good? Sure. And if you have them, make the decision. At least try it out and see if it's worth doing. For example, I did a WBTC CBBTC position on Meteor on Solana for about 2 months. The rate was not great, but it wasn't bad. It wasn't great, but it wasn't bad. But overall, I know I'm also farming a Meteor airdrop over time, right? So you kind of have to balance the intentions of what you're doing in this 40% range. But you should always continuously have the money working for you. That's the whole point. Nobody holds stable coins unless they're just waiting for opportunities to have, some sideline powder. You should be working the stable coins as much as possible. It's too easy not to be quite honest. Too easy not to. Putting into an Euler earn or something on Camino on Solana, earning more than 15%, just sitting there, auto compounding. It's the beautiful thing about DeFi. Uh, this is an older slide. I apologize. I'm looking at it like, but it's probably good to talk about because you're going to see a lot of different stable coins that are out there, right? If you're off on Beefy or something, you may look at something like, oh, what's USDR? The rate on it's ridiculous, or there's 4,000% on something BUSD on Pancake Swap on BNB chain. They haven't issued BUSD in a million years, guys. Paxos doesn't do that anymore, so it's pretty much a dead stable coin. That doesn't mean that the liquidity's gone. You can still move back and forth, but that's a risk I'm not willing to get into. USDR, is that Tangle? Backed by real estate. I think it's like specific properties. I have yet to see a good stablecoin from real estate that works well. And then we have some rebasing stablecoins like USD Plus from overnight. Shout out to the team. They've had some hurdles. Some chains they're fine on, but some they get affected by exploits. Because one thing they'll do is they'll take the mint funds for USD Plus and they'll put them in different LP positions. Unfortunately, there are exploits. Their stuff gets affected first. So the backing on it, the backing of these smaller stablecoins, these low cap stablecoins, can be something to really shy away from if you are not risk on. Does that mean that all of them are bad? No, of course not. The goal is to be in nothing but decentralized stablecoins eventually. But for now, centralized stablecoins like Tether's USDT or USDT0 or the soon USAT, Circle's USDC, URC, USYC, and Paxos's USDG or PayPal's PYUSD. Those are all examples of, fully collateralized, fully transparent due to the Genius Act stablecoins, but they are owned by an issuer. When we get to more decentralized stablecoins, they'll mean some more interesting available options, but They are experimental. They have been for years. There's only one decentralized stablecoin, in my opinion, okay, maybe two, that have done well, and that's going to be Frax, and that's going to also be USDS, which is the old DAI from MakerDAO. So just do your research specifically on stablecoins, just to make sure that if they're not one of the big ones that you see everywhere, that they're worth putting some of your money into. Because the problem with most of those is that they don't always keep their peg, and that's a problem. All right, so this slide is important for this first bullet point right here. The cardinal rule that I have with all protocols in DeFi is that every position, every protocol is high risk until they can prove to me that they are not high risk. I'm gonna bring Greg back up for a second. I can just tell he's like, oh no. Greg, give me one example of ways that protocols can prove to us that they are not high risk.
One example, huh? Just being transparent. Um, Having an open source code, having security audits, displaying what those security audits are, what the risks were, and whether or not they fixed the issues that were found. Because if they tell you they were just tell you they were audited and say no risks found, well, excuse my French, they're full of shit. Um, because there's going to be risks, especially when you're putting out your first code. It's, I mean, nothing's perfect right off the bat.
Exactly.
And then show me that it was fixed.
Exactly.
Show me that
Yeah,
you had a
that's
second
one.
audit done. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I'm just saying it. That those are all good things to consider. One thing I will tell you, just being on the builder side of what's happening in DeFi, it is not free to start your own protocol and have it secure and safe. These audit companies charge a ridiculous amount of money for audits. 5 figures, guys. Easy for the majority of these to audit code. And the reason why people invest in them is because it's frankly required by a lot of people for sentiment. They're like, "Oh, you haven't done 2 or 3 audits? Yeah, there's no way I'm putting money in your protocol." Because if you really believe in having a safe protocol, you will believe in forking up the money to get those badges. Now, there are dozens of auditors now. Back then, there were like maybe a handful. Now there's dozens. It's hard to find good auditors that are reputable, and many of them will come out you with their certifications. But there's a lot of people that use Chat GPT as their auditor, frankly, and it's gross. But when you find good ones, and I'm not going to name any of them because I don't want anybody coming for me like we are safe, but there are some that have definitely, if you get something from them, you're like, I'm going to keep you as still a medium risk protocol because they've shown in the past that they're like, yeah, this was something that we thought was safe, but then they get exploited.
I
That's not
personally
always
learned
on
the
the
hard
auditor.
way.
Yeah.
I mean, I learned the hard way on Scroll, and I'm not going to name what it was, but I left some money on
Oh,
left some
you,
money
you,
over
you,
there, and
you left the
within
name
next thing I
already
know, I
there,
woke
sir.
up. Yeah, woke up the next morning, and 90% of my bag was already gone, and it was just draining as fast as it could. And
Yeah.
due to that, this year when Sonic came out, there was a protocol on there that said that they hadn't been audited since 2021, and I refused to put money. I'm like, well, but nothing's happened. I don't care. Like that was 4
It's
years
been
ago.
3 years. Yeah.
Yeah,
Under
like
the old protocol name. I'm like,
right.
you haven't thought to get all of that looked at again,
Yeah,
because that's, and nah, I'm not gonna go into any
yeah.
of that because I don't want to. But they something happened recently that pulled them into question, and so that you gotta take security seriously. The other things that we can talk about that are big in terms of that is if they have a bug bounty, like if they're an ImmuneFi or some of these other bug bounties that actually consistently monitor and pay out good money for researchers who come and find exploits. Obviously, a good community, if they have a strong community with many, many members in a Discord and a Telegram, if they're active on socials, if their founders are doxxed or pseudonymous, or they have good teams that come from reputable projects. We've also seen what happened when VCs aren't everything, because I've seen VCs lose a ton of money on certain blockchains because they were backing groups that ended up hiring North Korean developers. Would be one of them, but there's some other things that happen. So VC money does not necessarily mean that it's going to be a safe protocol. Like I said, all plays are high risk until they can prove to me through various examples, tokenomics included, through research that they're not. Thanks for that, Greg. Appreciate you, man. That's good stuff, though. Also, if you're a new protocol, you're automatically high risk and medium risk because of you're brand new. There are things that could happen. You're going to have to earn the trust of the community while you're out there. Higher APRs can indicate that they're going to go further out on the risk curve. Higher APRs don't necessarily mean that. Incentives are incentives, guys. If people want to keep people in an ecosystem with high incentives, they're going to do it. Check out Arbitrum for like the last 2 years. It's a good example of incentives, right? The rates are crazy because of incentives. But there is such a thing as rates being unsustainable. And the farther you are out on the risk curve, you will find higher rates, but just know that that comes with a payoff of risk. So just keep that in mind. One thing we talked about that we didn't talk about is what's called the Lindy effect. Basically, the idea of the Lindy effect, or we actually just call just a Lindy protocol, is a protocol that has been around a long time. And the idea is the longer someone has been out in business, the more you are apt to trust them. If I'm looking for, a great plumbing business, if I will most likely go with someone who's been in business for 50 plus years because they've seen some stuff, right? And hopefully they've made the right decisions or believe in good customer service being in business that long, that they are good. That's just kind of the Lindy effect, right? They could be total trash, to be honest. But initially, that's what I kind of look for. Same with projects. If they've been around for a long time, kind of like what Greg's other example said, they've been around since 2021, but they didn't do another audit. Lindy effect kind of dissolves at that point. But yeah, protocols like Aave, Maker, Compound, Beefy, Yearn, Sushi, Curve, those are all Lindy protocols. They've been around since the beginning. There are a lot of protocols whose code is based off of all of these projects. So yes, if I'm looking for projects that are based off of mechanisms found on one of these, as long as they're audited, I'll be more apt to trust them because these guys have been around forever. Okay. Anything with directional exposure will be medium to high risk generally because it's not a stable coin. There are blue chip versions of coins, like if you're looking for an easy position to set up, let's say for example, AVAX ETH is a good position to put together. It's an altcoin; they're not going anywhere. That is a medium risk position, but something like Debt Relief Bot or Useless on Solana, definitely a high risk play because they have, even though they're high volume meme coin, they haven't been around forever and something could happen to them, right? Or like Useless Shiba Dog Doge something. That would definitely be a high risk play, right? Oh, okay. Sorry, I'm looking at. I had a different. I had a different slide deck put together, but the back half was all of this. So Um, Higher risk coins, and again, this is if you are risk off, this is very true, right? If you are risk off, you're not touching meme coins, you're not touching LPs with two directional assets, especially if they're not blue chips, because those are way too high risk. You have no idea what the if they're correlated, what the impermanent loss might be. Anything that's an unsustainable, high yielding farming position is also another one that you're not going to consider as a high as a risk off person. Leveraged and looping we consider higher risk. Why? Because there's definitely a directional issue, right? Because as you do leverage, when it comes to LPs, not talking about trading, we're talking about DeFi. With leveraged farming, your impermanent loss is magnified by the order of leverage you're doing. So if I'm just creating just a regular LP position, like, you know, AVAX ETH, if I take that to a 3x position, my impermanent loss is magnified 3 times. And I think it's a fairly common sense thing to understand. But just know that most people get, they get glossy eyed by the idea of making 300% or higher on a 3x position like that. But just know that there is risk with that. And just really just keep that in mind when you're going into a position, when you're putting together your all-weather portfolio. One thing that we talk about now in Beacon is the importance of journaling. And the reason for that is when you enter a position, kind of think about where your mind was at, think about what was going on in that position, because simply investing can be fairly cyclical. So when you're trying to analyze or take inventory later on, and why did I get in that position, or what was going on when I was looking at that position, those context clues can be very important for your decision making moving forward. And I already talked about all this. TVL is the one thing that I didn't talk about. Total value locked, meaning how much money is locked in the protocol. That can be a very important thing too, right? So if you go to a brand new protocol, they're not going to have a ton of value locked, and it can kind of cloud your judgment on whether or not they're a good protocol, because there are some protocols that are smaller that are still very viable uh, protocols to get into. And I can't believe I'm saying this about GMX, but GMX is definitely on like the third tier of perp dexes now, even though they're one of the first positions we like to talk about, because it's a fairly straightforward concept of what a perp dex is. But from a TVL standpoint, they're like around 400 million now, whereas Hyperliquid is approaching 3 billion. So if you were first coming in, which one would you go for? You probably wouldn't go to GMX. You would go somewhere like Hyperliquid, Aster, Avantis, or even the newer ones like Lighter, for example, that have decent TVL. But just kind of keep that in mind. There's still great positions that have fairly low TVL, but have incredible volume. And volume is a big part of what we consider to get good yield in this space. All right. Weird. Can't believe that hour flew by, Greg. Eesh.
Yeah, no, it was good.
I can do a lot of talking. I can yap my face off, apparently. Let's just talk about some best practices here. Let me put us here. There we go. That's better. Thanks everybody who's tuning in, by the way. I see quite a few people tuning in live. Thank you so much for being here. Again, if you'd like to learn more about what we do at Beacon, please feel free to join our free group, which is Total Value Locked at school.com/beacon. Come join the many people who have come and check out our free content, where this is coming from, by the way. And if you want to do more, like you want to be a part of our Beacon Mastermind, be amongst the best of the best, get one-on-one mentoring with myself and the team, you can do that. Or if you want to take the Beacon Challenge and make your first dollar in DeFi within 48 hours, you can absolutely do that as well. School.com/beacon. But yeah, if you know anybody who's curious about this, is DeFi curious, please have them watch this video, join us, and
Love to have you.
Absolutely. Sorry, I was
Love
reading your
seeing
comment. All meme coins are high risk to you. Yeah, absolutely. There's really not a low risk meme coin. There's blue chip meme coins, but there is no such thing as a low risk meme coin. But then you go into the whole idea of what is a meme coin, and then that's outside the scope of this. But in any case, best things to take away from this: all weather portfolio. You want to make sure it's a balance of low, medium, and high risk plays. The goal is 5 to 7 good plays starting out. This is what I tell people who are in our masterminds. They're like, what's my goal for the first 30 days, Chris? I'm like, it's to get that all-weather portfolio and investment plan started, 5 to 7 good plays. Uh, Audition as many as you can. You're gonna make mistakes, and this is the one thing too, guys. Please, I understand you want to flex and you want to show your friends that you're making yield. Please do not spend more than $100 in the first 30 days as you're starting out. Why? I've seen someone bridge $1 million to the wrong address. I've seen someone yeet 50K into the void. I've seen someone tell me they unstaked their position at Aave by selling their position.
Just hearing that makes me want to cry, Chris.
I know. I know. Now, when you're first starting out, I would say stick with 2 to 3 blockchains. If you know your way around Solana, just do Solana. There's plenty of decent DeFi there. If you're curious about EVM, get Rabby Wallet. Check out our information and start out on Arbitrum and Base. Uh, you want to have a concrete plan for both onboarding your funds and offboarding your funds. All of this is part of your portfolio goal, okay? Because you want to be able to take profit. We have multiple people who literally farm stable coins just to pay their taxes. It's become a popular strategy in our group specifically. But you want to use this as your map. This is your source of truth for what you'll be doing in this space, guys. Keep it balanced, don't overinvest, and just stay safe and keep going. That's really the key, to be quite honest, is keep going. You can keep putting money once you find out the basic foundations, easy just to keep putting money into the system, keep benefiting from daily compounding interest, and continue to keep doing that, and you will have a fantastic experience here in DeFi, where you're going to make much better returns than you would anywhere else in TradFi. That's a guarantee. Anything you want to add to, Greg, before we say goodbye?
I mean, I've been in this space since 2021, and currently I don't have more than 7 positions. I have, like, on the weekends, or if I see a really hot play on Meteora that I want to DLMM or something, I have some money put away, and that might grow to 10 or 12 positions, but it's usually not for more than 48 hours at a time. I just, I mean, like, especially with the market's as choppy as it is right now, my LPs are really wide. I'm just
Yeah.
trying to accumulate more more of these blue chips. So when it goes down, I'm side so that I bought at a lower value. Just depends on what your play is, but I mean, 5 to 7 positions is more than enough to consistently make gains, in my
Completely agree.
opinion.
And we'll end with this. Again, we're quite a bit over time, but I already mentioned the $100 piece. One thing you'll definitely want to do as you're going to be going through this is audition positions. Bring in other positions as you find them. Make sure the math is mathing. We say that all the time in our group, because not every position's APR is real. I can call out a dozen portfolio. I can call it a dozen protocols right now. Just because the UI says that doesn't mean that's what I'm making. So make sure the math is mathing. Make sure that test all this stuff, guys. They want you to break the system if you can. Why? Because in our world, code is law, and the only way the system gets better is to overcome issues it finds. So if you find bugs and stuff like that, let them know, please. This is your hard-earned money that's at stake here. Um, Yeah, so audition, work in new positions as they get better. How often? Monthly, every 6 months. It's up to you. Do not be ashamed, because that's not the right word. Do not be discouraged by 10% yield. Guys, that's way better than I'm ever going to make in my credit union. I can tell you right now. In order for me to get a 0.5%, I have to have $1 million in my savings account. A 0.5%. So 10% is so much better than that. And the sooner you come to that realization, the better you'll do in this space. Too many people come to this space thinking they're going to make $1 million off of a shitcoin trade. Do not have that mindset. And I'll say this right now: 95% of traders lose money. Get into a scenario where you're profiting off the behavior of other investors. That's what we do in DeFi. We profit off the behavior of other investors. If you don't believe me, come and check out our free content. Happy to talk with you. Happy to show you how we're doing it, because we've been here since 2019. We're not going anywhere. We're thriving in this space. Come and see why. Guys, that's our On Air with Beacon show. We generally use this as a Twitter space to introduce new communities to you guys. We'll do that next Tuesday. But today, just kind of want to do something a little bit different. Bring Greg on so you can see his beautiful face, and learn more about how to get an all-weather portfolio, because we're at the beginning tomorrow of Q4, and it's important to have a plan moving forward, because Q4 is gonna be a banger. And I'm really excited to just kind of see where this goes. We're hopefully going to get 2 more rate cuts, or just one good 50 bip cut sometime in the future. I've been on record since the beginning of the year saying it's going to be November, so we'll see what happens. But as we come back, I mean, everybody right now is in Asia that I know, so they're all at Token 2049 this week. We're going to see a whole lot of after effects of the last swing, which is Taipei, Tokyo, Seoul, and now Singapore. And then I'll keep going till we all see each other, most likely at Dev Connect in Buenos Aires in Argentina in November. We'll see kind of where it's going to go. But we've got a lot of great things there. If you want to check us out for our flagship podcast, the Total Value Lock Show, tomorrow, 2 p.m. Eastern. I'm sorry, 1 p.m. Eastern. My apologies. Check us out tomorrow. Got a great panel to talk about the week's news, to educate you on how you should be interpreting that. 2 of my favorite guests are going to be on tomorrow. We got Mike Kitt from Netcoins, as well as Luke, head of growth at Taushi, the proprietary trading network from Subnet number 8 and BitTensor. Really excited to have those guys on. They're fantastic, and we'll have a great conversation. So we'll see you then tomorrow, 1 p.m. Eastern on these exact same channels, on our Twitter as well as our YouTube. Greg, thanks for being here, brother, as our community leader at Total Value Locked. And we'll see you next time for our next tour space next week. 07, guys. I guess I should do the outro. Beacons up. Banks down. Take care, everybody.